In this demonstration, we are going to show how to configure the model IGP10S-T with a negative lower range value. Now, before we proceed, please be aware that applying vacuum to a model IGP10S is not recommended by the manufacturer and will eventually damage the sensor. Okay, for the purpose of demonstration, we are going to configure this specific device for a range of -10 to +10 psi. Now, if we try to do that using the rearrange feature, we go to the M1 LRV value and edit the value to a number of -10. There's my minus sign, my 1, set my decimal point. So there is my value of -10, and I'm going to try to enter that, and let's see what happens. I get a message that says LRV less than FMN. This simply means that the value I have tried to enter is below the allowable minimum limit. So I have no other option here but to cancel out and default back to the previous settings. So, in order to work around this issue, the procedure would be as follows. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure when we're doing this that our transmitter is vented to atmosphere. No pressure applied at the sensor. Okay? The next thing we want to do is we want to go into the configuration menu. So I press the next button 2 times. You'll see config. Press enter, and you'll see pole address. Press the next button 9 times. And you'll see M1 EGU. So I press enter, and the current engineering unit will be displayed, which is already PSI, which is what I want. So I'm not going to change it. So I'm simply going to press enter, and M1E off will be displayed. This is where we can enter the maximum allowable negative value. Now, because the lowest possible vacuum that could possibly be applied is -14.7 psi, which is a full vacuum, I'm simply going to round that number up to 15, and I'm going to enter that as the M1E off value. This is going to be a positive value. Do not enter a negative value. Enter it as a positive number. So we press enter. The first digit will blink, which means it's ready to be edited. I'm going to press next. Make that a 1. Press enter again. Make the next digit a 5 because we're entering 15. Press enter. Next digit blinks, which is a 0, which is what I want, so I don't need to change it. Press enter again. Next one will blink. Enter again. The last digit will blink. Press enter again. And it's going to say place DP, which allows me to move the decimal point. If it was not in the right place, I would press next until it was. It just so happens this is in the correct location. So I'm going to press enter, and I will see M1 URV, the current upper range value, which happens to be 25. We want it to be 10 because we want our range to be -10 to +10, and this is the upper range value. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to change that to a 1 by pressing the next button until it scrolls through until the first digit is a 1. I'm going to press enter. 5 blinks. I'm going to change that to a 0. And then I'm going to enter through the remaining zeros. Those do not need to be changed. So again, once I enter on the last zero, I'll see place DP, which allows me to move the decimal if necessary. I will press enter. And I will now see M1 LRV, lower range value. So this is where we want to enter the -10. So I'll press enter and then press next until that first blinking digit becomes a negative sign. There's the negative sign. Press enter. The next digit blinks. I'm going to make that a 1 by pressing next. And then I'm going to enter through the remaining zeros because I want my value to be -10. So now I get to place DP and I press next until the decimal point is in the correct location, -10. I press enter. And you'll notice I didn't get an error message that said LRV less than FMN. I went right to the next parameter, which is M2 EGU. So at this point, I want to press the next button repeatedly until I see the word save. And when I see save, I press enter. And my transmitter will come up reading -15. So now at this point we have to get that back to 0. So what I do is I press the next button 1, 2, 3 times. I see calibrate. Press enter. You'll see the word Foxcal. Press next. You'll see cal AT0, which means calibrate at 0. And as you remember in the beginning I said make sure the transmitter is vented to atmosphere, which it is. So I will press the enter button at this point. And it'll say cal wait, and we'll see a progress bar going across the screen. And when this procedure is done, it will say AT0 done. At this point I just repeatedly press the next button until I see save. When I see save, I press enter. The transmitter will come up reading 0, and the procedure is complete. This transmitter is now configured for a range of -10 to +10 psi.